Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Outlearning and Outservicing Your Competition. I'm Kevin Flanagan, Director of Marketing for Micronotes, and I'll be your moderator. Before we begin, two quick things. Type your questions into the question box on your GoToWebinar toolbar. We'll have plenty of time to answer them at the end. And if you want a copy of the slides, send an email to info@micronotes.com. With that said, let's get to it. Here is our presenter for today, Devon Kinkead, CEO and founder of Micronotes. Devon?
Thank you very much, Kevin, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. And in particular, I want to welcome both our channel partners in Fiserv, as well as some current customers are also on today's webinar. So a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'll tune my remarks a little bit to current customers as well, because I want to be helpful. So today I want to talk about outlearning and outservicing your competition, and to some extent this is a recap of a talk I gave last week in Las Vegas at the Fiserv Forum. Which, if you didn't have an opportunity to attend, was a brilliant event. As usual, they did a terrific job pulling the event together, and it was terrific. We had for the talk that I gave, we had a standing room only crowd, and we had some terrific folks in the audience and who asked great questions, for which I was grateful. So just to review why we're in this business, that is the AI-driven marketing automation business. We're in this business because really the basis of retail competition has changed. In the old days, you could over-densify a particular area with branches. You could have a lot more branches than, for example, Wells Fargo had in a given area, and you could look like the big bank in town. And because at that time, branches really mattered to consumers, and you could win the battle. You could just over-densify an area and win the battle. What's happened, though, is that to some extent, digital banking, or to a large extent, digital banking, both mobile and online, has disintermediated retail banks from their clients. So clients, find less and less reason to go into branches. Some banks don't have branches at all, like USAA. They don't have branches. Well, they have a couple in San Antonio, but so the new problem is that, well, if branches aren't that important anymore, so how do you win? How do you re-engage with your customers, and ultimately, how do you win? This new reality has really disrupted the retail banking space, and what it has meant is a net transfer of assets from sort of the community banks and credit unions to the mid-markets and very large institutions, which you can see in this slide, between 2013 and 2016. And this is just the new reality. It's these mid-market segments and very large institutions are just out-innovating in the digital channels, outspending their community competition and winning assets. So it's an existential risk for a lot of institutions. So fewer branch visits, fewer ad clicks. So the problem with that is that so you might say, well, we only have maybe three branch visits a year, but we have 175 visits or so through the digital channels. Can't we just make it up with advertising? Well, the problem is that the banner ad click-through rate just keeps declining. I don't know how much closer it can get to zero, but and the problem is that that is a recipe for no learning, because if nobody ever clicks on your stuff, it's really hard learn from no click. What does it mean? He didn't see it, or he wasn't interested, or both, or who knows? And I always tell the story of when I was towards the end of my mother's life, my 90-year-old mother, I was doing her banking for her, paying her bills and stuff, and with one of the mega banks, and they showed me, which was presumably her, the same irrelevant ad for merchant services. This is my 90-year-old mother, for 3 years. For 3 years, I saw the same irrelevant banner ad, and I thought, there's just no learning taking place here. So if there's no engagement, there's no learning. And if there's no learning, there's no sales. How can you sell something to someone if you don't even understand their needs, or can't learn, have no path to learn their needs? So in order to, and I do believe that the next decade of our lives together in retail financial services is going to be characterized by speed of learning. How fast can you learn through the digital channel, I think, is ultimately going to separate the winners from the losers. But in order to outlearn, you have to overcome a couple of challenges. One is just the banner click-through rate, which is rooted in banner blindness, and the other is, if you want to pick another channel, okay, so that channel is no good. Let's try email. Email has got plenty of problems, not the least of which is, everybody's overusing email right now. And you don't have to. I mean, if you think about it, how many emails do you get from the really successful internet giants like Amazon? I don't get that many. In fact, I don't get any advertising emails from them. I don't need them. There are better ways to do this. So, but if you can overcome these challenges to engagement, then you got to figure out what to do with that data. You've got to learn. You've got to learn from that data. So, and humans can't do that. Unfortunately, we just can't process that amount of information. So you need machines to do that. Now, the great news is that the retail banking institutions, be they banks or credit unions, have a long and very rich history of servicing their customers and servicing them very well indeed. We do Net Promoter Score as part of our platform for our customers. So we go out and ask customers, hey, would we ask the banks or credit unions customers, hey, would you recommend us to the bank or the credit union to a friend, family member, or colleague? And on a scale from 1 to 10, you've all seen these NPS, they call them NPS survey questions. And invariably, the ones that say, oh, yes, of course I'd refer you, we ask them, well, why would you refer us? And almost invariably, the number one reason why they'd refer the bank or the credit union is because they have great service. And so the good news is that there is a rich service culture already embedded in these institutions that needs to be leveraged. So if you can just figure out what the customer needs and convey that information in real time almost to the front lines, you can get just terrific customer service. The other thing I'd like you to think about is the fact that customers, or your customers, your consumers, are being trained to expect personalization. So if you've ever watched a film on Netflix, or listened to music on Pandora, or gone to your Amazon page, you'll see that there's a couple of things going on here. With Netflix, they want you to give them a thumbs up. They want you to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to everything you watch. And actually, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is that if you do that, in fact, that will enable their machine learning systems to personalize your content. Same is true with Pandora. And by the way, both Netflix and Pandora have done rather well as compared to the traditional music and movie business. And they've done it because they're user-centric, and they're providing a way of gathering feedback as well as personalizing the experience for each and every consumer. Same is true with the recommender engines that you see in Amazon, that little strip below, customers who bought this thing also, bought that thing. That's a recommender engine. That's a machine learning system at scale. And so two things are going on here. Consumers are being trained not only to give feedback, but they're also being trained to expect the brands to listen and deliver that level of personalization. And the problem is that ads just don't listen very well, but fortunately interviews do. So let me tell you about how Micronotes works, and for both, a refresher course for existing clients, and also an introduction for those of you looking at Micronotes. So what we do is we will pull in 6 months of the bank's or credit union's data. That is typically a marketing customer information file, affectionately known as the MCIF. Or a core extract, which is roughly an equivalent of that file. We'll pull that in through a set of secure pipes. Then we will lay that data out in a time series format. We will machine learn audiences. Machine learning audiences simply means that we will probabilistically score all users for the products and services that the bank or credit union would like to offer their customers. And each and every customer has a probabilistic score based upon the distance, which is in this case the mathematical distance, from that customer to someone who we've recently sold that particular product to. And the closer they are, the higher their score. So we probabilistically score all users for products and services using the bank's data. Then the big important step is we go out and we validate whether or not we got it right. So we'll, as in the example on the right, which is a logout interview, which occurs at the logout of online banking. These things appear in mobile, they appear in session, and they appear at logout. I'm showing the logout here because it's easy to see. But we actually validate whether or not we got the prediction right. And it's the same thing that anybody else would do who's got a feedback mechanism, whether you're recommending movies or music or auto loans. It's basically the same principle. You make a prediction, and then you go out and ask, did I get this right? And are you looking to buy and finance a car? If your user says yes, then we might ask them, hey, is it a new car or a used car? We have slightly different rates perhaps, or different programs for those two. And then we might next ask them, what would you like to do next? Would you like to go straight to the loan page? Would you like to have a banker call you? What would or a loan officer call you? What would you prefer? And then whatever the customer, whatever your user tells us to do, we do automatically. Of course, if they say no, we may try to save the conversation with a question, hey, do you have a loan with someone else? Maybe we could refinance it. If they just say, no, I'm not in the market and I'm not interested, that's okay too, because that's a mistake. And we want to know where those mistakes are, because the mistakes actually enable us to go back and correct what are called the classifiers, which are mathematical functions that essentially separate the probable auto buyers from the ones that are not very probable. And that's an equally important step. Then for the clients who are interested and do want a banker to contact them, and this is again to leverage that strong service culture in the institution, we go ahead and encapsulate what we learned in the interview. The interviews take about 10 seconds in the online channel and about 4 seconds in the mobile channel. We collect that data and we push it to the front lines based on specific lead routing rules that the institution sets up. For example, if I answered yes to these questions and I wanted a banker to contact me about an auto loan, or more likely about a refi, then that would go to the people within the institution that focus specifically on auto loans. So everybody sort of wins out of the experience, and it says, hey, we talked to Devon today. He told us he's looking to buy and finance a new car, and would like a banker to call him. Here's his phone number, or he'd like an email. Here's his email number. Whatever your users select, and then we're learning. And it's a continuously learning machine. So we have such huge response rates to these kinds of interviews, and not all of them are sales interviews. Some of them are philanthropic, some of them are educational, some of them are related to sales. But we have such a huge response volume that we can learn quickly, and our machines can learn very, very quickly, which is great, of course, for the user experience. This is the basic architecture. So if you didn't know, Micronotes lives in a cloud. We don't live in the cloud. Of course, our software lives in the cloud, although sometimes I feel like I'm living in a cloud. So the way this works from lower left is, first we ingest the first-party data from the institution. So that's what I referred to earlier when I said we ingest 6 months worth of data. That's the enterprise data. We then go ahead and process that data, score everybody. We select in our campaign management system, we select an audience. Hey, we're interested in talking to people about auto loans, and then we go out and we interview people, and people, say yes, no, whatever they say. The ones that say yeah, are considered leads. We track those to sales. And the ones that say no, that's okay. We get better the next time. And we get better from what we call zero-party data, which of course is the data that is coming directly from your users. And we push that, we improve the propensity scores through time, and we can push those into your other multi-channel advertising systems or your email marketing systems. And I'll tell you a brief story I heard last week when visiting a client who told me that they were doing a lot of email marketing, and the problem they ran into was that the lead quality that they were generating from the email campaigns was just very low. And what happens is when you generate very low quality, highly automated leads, you effectively end up what they described as spamming their colleagues, which is not something you want to do. So what they did instead was they downloaded the propensity scores from Micronotes, established some baselines for doing their email campaigns, and then only sent emails to the people who were probable. Who had a high probability of being interested in not only responding to the email, but actually buying that particular product. Because remember, all of when we say propensity or we say probability, it's all based upon what you have sold historically. So it's all based upon what your institution has actually sold and what people look like who have bought that particular product. So since then, they're much happier with the quality of their leads since they began using our propensity information as well. And I certainly encourage all of our existing customers who are on the phone to please do that. And in the next slide, I'll actually show you how to do that, or I'll actually show you where to go to get that information. And if you need additional help, please contact your client service representative who will help you download those scores. So the reason this thing works is because inherently banking has a ton of built-in service traffic. You got 173 or so visits a year to the digital banking channels. It's just a lot of high-quality built-in traffic to mine. There is no training needed. Everybody knows how to do multiple choice. We've been doing it since we were in kindergarten, I feel, and all the way through graduate school. And the last reason it works is just because the volume of responses that we get is so high. We get 20% of the entire online digital population interviewing each month, generating leads, sales, and training data for the predictive models. That's a high volume of data and enables us to consistently learn and improve our predictions. The other thing is because we are actually consuming the data files from the institution, and some of our customers send them in monthly, some in weekly, and some daily. It sort of depends on the institution. It depends upon how automated their BI systems are. But most of our customers today are sort of moving towards a daily feed. But every month, our system automatically sends you an email, which is the "What have you done for me lately" email, which summarizes what did the platform actually do this month. So here's an example from, I guess, last month from one of our institutions, 19 campaigns live. That's simultaneously. Live campaigns are running simultaneously, all different campaigns to all different audiences. On the order of 16,000 interviews completed. Better than last month, which is good, like much better than last month. They generated 847 leads, and they made 23 sales. And we can actually track sales because we're consuming the MCIF or the core extract, and we can actually report out sales attribution. So in order to be attributed a Micronotes sale, you have to have qualified for an interview, taken an interview, accepted the offer, and acquired the product within a finite period of time. If you meet all those criteria, you're one of those 23. And we also provide some overall monthly statistics, which are more digital marketing statistics. A click-through rate average in this case was 2.21%, which is about a factor of 10 greater than what you would normally expect from well-targeted banners. And the conversion rate is about double what you would expect from banners that send you to a landing page. There's no magic, by the way, in that number. There's no magic there other than it only takes 10 seconds to complete a Micronotes interview and get a conversion. By the time you load landing pages and navigate new landing pages and stuff, there's just a lot of loss due to the time. So that's why we typically see much higher conversion rates using the interview process. Particularly for our existing clients, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide, but not all that much. So this is just a reminder. If you're in our console, please remember that you have access to download the propensity scores. So these are the probabilities for all of your customers for all of the products that you offer. And you can use those. You can upload those into your other marketing channels that don't have probabilistic information and don't have information directly from your customers or your members. And so I highly encourage you to download and use those scores liberally throughout your marketing, your multi-channel marketing activities. Because this will have a lot of no's in it, and no thanks, and you don't want to remarket to those people. People will tell you explicitly they're not interested in this particular product. The other thing I want to just mention on this slide is a reminder that we are now including attrition risk scoring and delinquency risk scoring as standard features in the Micronotes Pro and Enterprise packages. And let me just unpack that for you for a minute. So what is attrition risk? Attrition risk is what's the likelihood that any one of your customers is going to go away in the next 30 days? And just to give you a little bit of data around that, we, for example, have a client who only asks us to score profitable customers at risk of attrition. And the background level of profitable customers, the background, so for the entire population, the likelihood that a profitable customer will leave in any given month is about 0.5%. The 50 to 80 customers that we flag per month for this particular institution, the probability that those customers will leave, or the actual rate of attrition of those customers that we predict is about a little shy of 40%. So it just gives you some sense of sort of what the background level is and how well we can actually forecast who's profitable and likely to leave, and push those scores to you, push those customers or members to you, so that you can actually reach out to those clients. It's not a huge list, but it's an important list. You can reach out to those clients and say, hey, geez, we'd love to deepen our relationship with you. What could we do to get you to, call us your primary financial institution with a direct deposit of your paycheck? And you won't win all of them, but if you win a few of them, that's a lot better than going out and getting new ones, which are expensive, and it's a risky business. They may not ever be profitable. They just may be a drag on your institution for a very long time. So that's new and very cool, and how we do that is very cool as well. The delinquency risk scoring is also new and an important part of the base package, the base Pro and Enterprise packages. That enables us to take a look and say, hey, these customers or members are likely to become delinquent on their loans in the next 30 days and therefore we would like to offer them skip-a-pay options, and we would like to, we'd like to market a skip-a-pay option to them. We'd like to market an opportunity to come in and talk with us in a branch about their loan if they'd like to do that. These turn out to be very successful campaigns, in fact. So getting out ahead of these things, getting out ahead of loan losses using predictive analytics is a really good idea. You won't get all of them, but you'll get some of them, and systematically, if you're getting more of them, you will be a better institution. For those of you who are not Micronotes customers, I just want to also just key in on the affordability of the platform, because I think one of the things I'd just like to emphasize, and we're going to close here shortly, is how important it is that whether you go with Micronotes or you go with some other provider, it is critical that if you are a community institution, that you get into AI now. You cannot wait on the sidelines any longer. You can't jump. We just heard last week that the mega banks are spending billions, and that's with a B, on AI and machine learning to drive their businesses forward. You can't sit on the sidelines. You got to get in, and you got to get in with AI and machine learning. You can't get in with 20-year-old marketing technology, because that's what the mega banks were doing 20 years ago. They're way past that. You're not going to win. It's a bad strategy, so don't do that. Let me just close by just giving you an example of the cost. So you can always go on our website. This is micronotes.com. Go on pricing, and then you can just plug in a number here. If you are, if you're a small institution, with 5,000 90-day actives, an enterprise solution will run you about $949 a month, plus a one-time first-year installation charge of $10,000. If you're only doing Pro, which is without the mobile channel, it's about $650 a month. These prices will vary slightly if you're going through one of our channel partners, like Fiserv, because there's some value adds, but it'll be clearly in this range. So summarily, very affordable. Get in now, whether you get in with us or somebody else. Get in now, because the time to sit on the sidelines is over. So at that point, I will please reach out to us if you have any questions. So at that, I'll conclude my remarks.
Well, thank you, Devon. And it is time for questions. So please submit yours in the question box that you'll see in the GoToWebinar toolbar. Here's our first one, and it relates, Devon, to Fiserv, and it asks if Fiserv has a pre-built data extract that will feed Micronotes.
Yes, actually they do. So if you are on a Fiserv core and you have business analytics, the fine folks at Fiserv will send you a query that you can run, and that query will enable you to feed our machine learning systems the data they need to start operation.
The next question relates to deployment. Basically, how long does it take to deploy Micronotes at an institution?
That is a great question. If you are, so it depends. If you are a Fiserv retail online customer, you will be live. Nowadays, you'll be live as long as retail online is switched on and making calls to our servers. You will be live in the first week after the signing of the contract. At that point, you will be doing what we call all audience campaigns. So those are Net Promoter Score campaigns. Those are quick facts. While we work with your BI department to get the query run, and we establish the SFTP accounts to do data transfer. But we can have you live very, very quickly. If you're not, it will be to some extent dependent upon the integration time to the other platforms. We are integrated with other platforms, and it depends. But typically, the longest it should take is about 12 weeks.
Next question has to do with matrix values. Is there a matrix with the values for the propensity score, such as highest score versus lowest score?
So let's see, is there a matrix with, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, and here's why. Think of the scores themselves as being values between 0 and 1, which is consistent with probability theory. You can't be below 0, and you can't really be above 1 in terms of the probability of some particular event occurring. So you can certainly look at a table of values, and you can determine what the range of that is. It could be, it could be a range of, there'll be zeros in there. So there will be zeros, and there will be 0.9s. So there will certainly be a range of values. The trick, it turns out, in actual practice, is to understand where to set the threshold. Because it turns out that when you actually do this work, you can produce. For example, you might have, if you put in a threshold of 0.50, which is 50%, probably people above 50% propensity, have a better than even odds chance. Think about it in Las Vegas terms, better than even odds chance of being interested in the conversation. Below that, they have less than even odds chance. So, and truth be told, technically speaking, probability and odds are slightly different, but we don't need to get into that now. But the point is that you may find, as you look through Campaign Manager, you may find pockets. So you may only have 1,800 customers at a probability threshold above 0.5, but if you lower it to 0.48, you may find yourself with twice that number, just because these things tend to bin out in unpredictable ways. So I hope that's helpful in answering the question. It's probably needing a longer dialogue.
Are there campaign templates for the propensity scores for certain products?
Campaign templates for the propensity scores. So there are campaign templates for the interviews, for sure. So we have a big library of interviews. So you don't have to dream up all these interviews yourself. You can just download them from our library and then customize them, tweak them to your own institution's requirements. The platform itself will do the base branding for you, but you may want to phrase things in a slightly different way depending upon how you voice to your clients. So that's the case in terms of standard templates for propensity scores. No, propensity scores just are what they are. Each customer will have a value between 0 and 1, and the closer that value is to 1, the more likely they are to respond. And it becomes the institution's job to, and with of course help from us, to determine where to set that threshold.
The next person asks if they can use the Micronotes solution to help them clean up their CIF, such as outdated email addresses, phone numbers, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question. This is a feature that is in our development queue, and not yet fully available. And I say not yet fully available. We do open responses, and we can report that information through reports. But really, the right way to do this would be to present the data to the client and say, here's what we've got, and then enable the client to auto edit it. What you can do, however, is today, and without any further development, you can put up an interview that simply asks customers, have they updated their information lately? And if they say no, geez, I have moved or something's changed, then you can auto connect them through a URL redirect directly to the profile page. Now that interview would be run, quote, in session, which means that's behind the login. So the client could go straight to their profile page and make those changes right away. That's available today. The slicker version, which is writing straight to the core, is still in development.
We have another question asking to review the scoring of those customers that are most likely to leave.
Yeah.
Is that available with the service through Fiserv? This is a client who just recently went live with Micronotes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that comes with your Pro package. It's part of the 2018 Pro package. So if you recently bought, yes, attrition risk scoring and delinquency risk scoring are both part of your base package. So you'll look forward to, as soon as you get us a data file, 6 months worth of data, we will score all of your products and services, as well as attrition risk and delinquency risk.
Speaking of data, when Micronotes does machine learning, does it use my bank's data, or does it use all of the data from all Micronotes clients?
That's a great question. So the answer is it only uses the individual institution's data at present. And the reason being is that each one of your customers is unique. And we listen to each one of your customers or members uniquely. And we learn based on your customers' feedback as well as your customers' data on how to personalize. So in today's world, Micronotes only learns with your data set. We do not take into account other banks, other institutions' data. There are some plans amongst our data science community to look at how possible it is to get leverage, and that may be available someday. But for the moment, we are doing just fine learning off of your own data sets.
We have time for a couple more quick questions. Here's one asking about the security of the Micronotes platform. How secure is it?
Yeah, great question. So the Micronotes platform is extremely secure. First of all, it sits on the Microsoft Azure platform, which in and of itself is an extremely secure platform. But beyond that, Micronotes itself is SOC 1, SOC 2, SSA 18 certified, and continues to perform penetration testing as well as all of the requirements that are part of the SSA 18 and particularly SOC 2 protocol. So it's a very secure platform. We've never had a data breach and don't plan to.
Final question goes back to delinquency risk data, and they're asking if you can give an example of how an institution can use that data to have a positive effect.
Yep, good question. So So it turns out that that there are a couple of campaigns that are driven off of these, a couple of these what I would call service campaigns that are driven off of good propensity values. So one of them is just, can we market skip-a-pay to the people who are likely to become delinquent? And in addition, can we offer them the opportunity to schedule, for example, through time trade, automatically an interview with a banker in the bank to discuss their loan. So that's an example of a successful campaign we have run in the past, and there are other examples of these types of service campaigns. For example, courtesy pay. It turns out that if you construct an interview or a campaign rather using a high propensity audience for courtesy pay, we've had particularly good success running that through mobile. And I think it's probably because people have their phones with them when they're at the restaurant or they're at the grocery store or something, and they're not quite sure they have enough money in their account or something, or they've been embarrassed or something. And we've just seen really good results pushing, for example, courtesy pay through mobile interviews, and the results are astounding if you can actually let them sign up on the phone immediately following the interview. So if they say, yes, I'm interested in signing up, and they say, you take them straight to, on the device, take them straight to a sign up, terms and conditions, and sign me up. One of our clients achieved a 57% conversion of lead to sale ratio on the campaign, which is just off the scale. But it's all because it was just easy and it was well targeted and it worked. So.
And there is one final question. I lied. We'll make this the last question.
Really good at this time.
It relates to personally identifiable information. And as a best practice, does the data extract that we work with contain PII data? Yeah.
So we actually try to avoid PII because in many cases there's really no reason for us to have it. It's more of a liability than it is an asset. It's an asset only insofar as some of our clients do send us PII, and the reason they send it to us is because they actually want our lead emails to include the name and phone number of the customer that they're supposed to be calling, in which case, we send that via secure email, but that does contain PII, and that's coming from a file that the bank or credit union shares with us. But best practices are, no, we don't need it, and we'd rather not have it.
Excellent. So we did not stump you, Devon. That's good. Everyone on the line, thank you for your time. Again, if you want a copy of the slides, or if you have any additional questions for us, drop an email to info@micronotes.com. And for any of you who are not extremely familiar with Micronotes, you can learn more and read our blog on micronotes.com. So thank you very much, and have a very good rest of your day.